turn on your camera and microphone when you speak, but please turn them back off again afterwards. All councillors must ensure that their cameras remain on. And have we started recording? Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Prynawn da, good afternoon. Welcome to Social Services Scrutiny Committee on Tuesday the 28th of February 2023. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and may be broadcast via the authority's internet site. The images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes within the authority. So agenda item 1, apologies for absence. We have none. Item 2, declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest before we start? No. Okay, agenda item 3 is the update on the implementation of the Adult Day Service Strategy. So Cabinet Member Julia Jenkins is going to give us a quick summary of the report and the recommendations and then hand over to Angela.
It's the update on implementation of Adult Day Service Strategy by Angela and Christy. We've got a summary report. 1.1, the report outlines the progress that has been made in respect to the day service strategy and the changes that have taken place in the service post-pandemic. 1.2, this includes the revision of the day service offer to individuals to consolidate interim arrangements made during COVID. 1.3, how the shape of the day services continues to evolve to better meet the needs of individuals. And 1.4, the actions that have been taken to change the offer and an outline of the next steps. And the recommendations at 2.1, the content of this report is discussed and noted. And 2.2, scrutiny to review the progress to date and comment on future reconfiguration of the daytime opportunity offered to better meet the well-being outcomes of people.
Thank you, Julia. Angela, do you want to take us through the rest of the report, please?
Thanks, Councillor Jenkins, for presenting that. Assuming everyone's had opportunity to read the report, if you look at it in section 3, we've outlined what we intended to do based on the last time we brought the report to scrutiny and to council. And in 3.3, those actions are detailed. So as we go through it later on, we'll provide you with an update on what we propose to do and where we currently are in implementation. Where we were, if you look at it in point 4.1, it gives you an outline of the day services that we were providing, where they were being provided from, and what they were actually delivering to the people of Merthyr Tydfil. In section 5, we then started looking at where we are now. So if you look at it, one of the main achievements is in 5.1, where we've achieved funding to update our day services for people with dementia at Tienvis, which is sited up in Health Park, and those improvements. And I'm aware the scrutiny has been to visit that day service to see how those improvements have taken place. One of the things we said, and I think we discussed this when we last, when you last visited visited Health Park, is it really highlighted the sort of the discrepancy between Unit 1 and Unit 2. And I think last time we spoke, we were seeking to achieve some funding that would support us to upgrade Unit 1, which is the learning disability. So we replicated the same standard that is in Tienvis. And we're pleased to say that we've had agreement from the Regional Capital Fund to actually undertake that work. So far, it's gone through the regional endorsement, and it's now sitting with Welsh Government awaiting that final agreement for us to progress. But obviously, Health will take the lead on doing that work. It is a health building. You can see that since we last met, Tienvis has now achieved the accreditation under Meaningful Care Matters, which was one of the areas we hope to obtain, and as such is the first day service to achieve that accreditation across Wales. We've looked at, I think last time we spoke, we weren't really sure what the longer term impact on day services was going to be post-COVID. So we're now in a position where we can see what the longer term impact is, and we've taken actions accordingly. Example of which is what we've did, which is a long-standing piece of work, where people living in supported living were accessing local authority day services 5 days a week as part of that arrangement. What we've done is, Christy, as the principal manager, has negotiated with our supported living providers, which are Drive, to provide that on a 24-hour basis rather than coming into day service. The benefits of that is that you can see that there's cohorts of people, they can share the provision, and then they can tailor it in the best way to those individuals who was living in those supported accommodation. We've got a number of individuals again attending day services that were living in residential care homes. These have been long standing from when supported living didn't actually exist as a concept. So people were moved from Hensel back up to live in the community they came from, and the only registration available then was residential. So we've done some work with our provider, and they're going to provide that service in-house then, and again tailored to individual needs. By the time we've done that, then we've got our cohort of people who are going to continue to attend day services, as we've always seen day services. We've continued to work with People First, which is a peer advocacy organisation. Well, the benefit of that has been that they work with people, they use different ways of communicating, and they bring back the views of the individuals into that planning process, and it has been really effective. And we got some examples in the appendices if you wish to see them. Where vacancies have arisen in terms of staff vacancies, we've held those for a short period in order to reconfigure and to change the way we deliver services. So everything we've done so far, now our future progress, is all based on using the existing resources in a more beneficial way. And we can see in point 5.11 that we've developed community opportunities planner posts. These posts are to work with individuals to look at what their individual interest is. Are there other people? Are there some activities going on outside that they're able to access rather than coming into a traditional day service? And that's based on the consultation we've undertaken with people with learning disabilities. We've looked at, in 512, outlines that we've looked at our existing referral and assessment process, and we've co-produced that with People First. And again, you can see where they provide the easy read versions to better engage with people who learn disabilities. If you look at it then in part 6 of the report, we've said where we want to be, and we want to deliver daytime opportunities that provide person-centred approaches, that are outcome focused, that promote individual strengths and abilities. And we want to ensure that where we are delivering place-based services, that the environment is suitable to meet the needs of the individuals. Section 7 indicates what we want to do next. We want to implement the revised referral and assessment process for new people transitioning into adult services, and review how that's working in 6 months' time. We're planning to visit other local authorities, so we have been waiting for the weather to break because it hasn't been too conducive to go to other areas. We've identified places in Bridgend, in Pembroke, the Christie and some of the other team are going to visit to learn from what's happening in other parts of Wales and bring that back into our development progress. We plan to, so repeating myself then, apologies. 7.3, we'll continue to work with People First to include their views, people with learning disabilities in any future developments. And part of the things we're also doing now is including people with learning disability who access day services into our interview planning, interview process. So they have a say in those people we appoint into these posts going forward. We work together with the carers officer to set up carer specific groups, initially planning set for the end of January, and that's where we're looking at developing groups aligned to day services, so they're more specific, because most of the people go into Unit 1, the carers are supporting people with high care needs with learning disabilities, so our carers worker is looking at developing those. And we'll continue to work with the regional partners as part of the regional partnership board to develop services. And we will continue to work with Contact Organic partners to implement environmental improvements in Unit 1. So thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Angela. Councillor Claytubby.
It's on page 2 under older people. It said you fully integrate the Dementia Day service with health. What do you do exactly in that position?
As it stands now, they are co-located but not fully integrated. So there's some practices that are still being undertaken by our health colleagues and some things that are undertaken by social care. What we're trying to do is align the team into one team, and part of that has been working with Meaningful Care Matters, so they adopt the same way of working on an individual basis. So we look and see what we can do further to look at integration, how the management works more effectively. So we're continuing to say, how can we bring health and social care closer together when they're both delivering from the same building?
Oh,
If that
so
makes sense.
most of your clients, are they registered with the GPs in the health centre, or no?
No.
Oh, it's a pity that, isn't it? Yeah.
But it depends where they live in, because if you think of it, some people may only be spending 1 day a week up in the health park
Oh, I
in
suppose.
day services, but they may be, and the time they most need the GPs is they're probably not attending because they're unwell. So GPs are allocated based on where people live as
Yeah.
opposed to attending day services. So it's more around the day service health provision we talk about, rather than the wider health provision across the services within health.
The other question I was going to ask is, I was getting a lot of emails complaining about Cyfarthfa greenhouses, where you've sort of moved up there. Is it your group? There were a lot of pensioners going there. I think they've been displaced now. Have you come to some satisfactory arrangement with them?
Councillor Jenkins is
Oh,
happy to respond to
yeah,
that.
okay.
I know she's been meeting with the group, so it'd probably be really good to provide us an update there.
We've had meetings with the gardening group, and it's been agreed that they're going to go to the engine house.
Oh,
And we're at this point in time looking for a greenhouse that's suitable for them. And they are more than happy with our solution.
oh, that's good. One final question, if I could. I should know, but which is T-Cum and T-Gwyn? I wasn't quite.
Oh, right. I got to be honest, we all get confused with the T's in front of everything. And I think everything that was renamed was all renamed with T in front of it. Tcum is based in the extra care up in Tyne. So there's a small day service for older people that's sited within the extra care facility.
Oh, right.
And T Gwyn is just at the back of this building in the lower section of the Salvation Army building.
Oh, thanks very much.
Oh, it's okay.
Oh, that's all. Thanks.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Guy. Any other questions?
Yeah, I just
Two seconds, Guy. Councillor Ian Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. In relation to item 511, we're talking about the new community planner taking up post. You say part of the role for the transition would be to manage expectations. I was just wondering, could you elaborate a bit on what you mean by to manage expectations, please?
Hi, traditionally, what's actually happened as part of the transition process is the younger adults with learning disabilities or significant needs attend Greenfield School. So one of the things we find is as people are transitioning from being a young person into adult services, the expectation is almost there. They replicate them going to school Monday to Friday and from 9 till 4 o'clock. One of the things, speaking to younger adults as part of the consultation with people first, what people are saying is they want things that are of interest to them rather than just replicating where they go to school. So if you think of it, accessing community groups within the community of Merthyr, quite often those happen at like 6 o'clock on a Thursday evening. There may be things that are of more interest in terms of attending, sort of going to groups, going to watch music festivals, etc., that happen on the weekend as part of that community piece of work. So it's managing the expectations of the young person versus the expectations of the families, where it's just replicating what they were receiving in school. So it's managing that expectation rather than saying, no, you can't have it. It's actually looking in a more positive way on achieving better outcomes for that individual. One of the other things we find is always something we come across is a lot of young people say that they want to be in employment, they want to work. That's come through really strongly in those service user consultations. But then quite often it's managing that, because if they work full time, the impact of working full time is they lose the benefits. And that, as we all know, quite often benefits form part of the broader family funds that support people to live there. So it's balancing then maybe doing 2 days work experience, working in the community that doesn't impact on their benefits, and it gives them more self-worth, and sort of they feel more valued because they're actually doing an employment. And it'd be really good if Christy can give an example of someone that we're just looking to move to paid employment up in the greenhouses. Chris, do you want to give an example of where and the impact it's had on them?
Yeah, sure. So we've as part of the work that we've been doing up at Cyfarthfa, we're extending into the other part of the greenhouse, and it's going to create 12 paid employment opportunities and some volunteering opportunities for some of the people who previously would have accessed via a day service. And through some of the conversations that we've had with them, what they've said to us really clearly is they don't want to be considered as somebody that accesses a day service. They want to be able to say that they go out to work every day. And so the opportunity that they'll now get through the through the greenhouses will mean that they're now in that position where they can openly tell people that they're working and not accessing a day service, so giving them more of that feeling of being a part of the community.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Councillor Thomas, have you got any other questions?
No, thanks.
No?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Angela, I've got a few, if that's okay. So when you look at the Cwmtaf Regional Plan with the overarching themes of connection, and then you've got the Commission Statement for Older People, like tackling isolation and loneliness. And all those themes are feeling connected to the local community. How are you applying that in 24-hour living accommodation connected to local community? How is that applied there, please?
In terms of, we got a couple of elements here. Is like you've got to look at the needs of the individuals as well and their ability to connect with the community. So we're talking about wider sense now, Councillor Vokes, or are we talking in the context of day service? You're asking.
Yeah, I was just how the impact, if you're in 24-hour accommodation, how are they still being connected to that community?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, so we can come back on them. I think there's two elements.
Yeah.
Is like when you're looking at residential placements, it's slightly different because it depends on the needs of the individual and how they are actually connecting with the community. I know Chris has been doing some stuff with Claire in looking at people in Tigger not being able to access the community and going out on days, but again, not all of them are able to participate in that because of their physical needs. In terms of the supported living, as we referenced in here, that is drive, and what they're really good at doing is running some things in-house where they book out the hall, and not just the people from Merthyr, but people from RCT or Bridgend. They'll book something, as an event where they can all access that. And the other thing the Drive is really good at then is they will set it up with a couple of people who want to do something specific. So where we've commissioned them to do that, so it could be, is this person in this supported housing wants to do something, and this person in this supported housing, but it doesn't mean that everyone in this supported housing has got to go and do the same event, because they
Okay.
then have the facility to create something for people from the different houses that they're living in. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah.
So then that makes it more bespoke. So then it depends what they want to do in the community then. It's
Mm.
very much led by the people who live there and what they
Okay.
want to do.
Okay, lovely, thank you.
Done.
Councillor Gareth Richards, please.
Thank you, Chair. Question for Angela it is. With regards to where we were, Angela, the 5 sites, roughly how many were attending those 5 sites, please? Service users were attending.
Right. I can't remember offhand, Councillor, but we can check. I
Yeah.
know certainly TCOM is running roughly where it was. T Gwyn is roughly delivering the same amount. Where we've seen some of the bigger reduction has been in Unit 1. Chris, I can remember offhand.
No, off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Do you want us to
So
provide
play it
those?
after, Angela. It's okay. It's just out of
Okay.
curiosity, really. What numbers were we talking about within the service, really? And my other question, if that's okay, Chair, is in relation to the I think it's 5.2, the grant funding. How much we expect? How much has been applied for?
I think it's circa 1.8 million. Obviously,
Yeah.
I think one of the difficulties we've got with most of the capital funding at the moment is the original quotes are coming in much higher. So it's, when it goes out to tender now, once we get confirmation from Welsh Government to proceed, then the Health Board will go out for formal tender to get that back. But it's been
Yeah.
approved to date, Gareth.
Thanks, Angela. And just a final comment rather than the question, really, is to congratulate everyone on the accreditation, really. I wasn't sure whether you were correct, Angela, or the report, but whatever was correct. You say it said Wales. I think the report says the UK, but whichever is a great achievement to pass on. Thanks, really.
Yeah, it is UK. So I
Yeah.
shouldn't have to sell them, Gareth.
Well, even better then, isn't it? Even
Yeah.
better.
Even better.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. That's all I had.
Thank you, Councillor Richards. Any other questions? Yep, need to press. Yep.
Right. On when you say learning disabilities and you're on about direct payments, I mean, we have had the issues with the direct payments with people not being paid. Has that been rectified now? Please.
I think we've done quite a bit of work in terms of working with People Plus. Unfortunately, they took up the contract on in the April the COVID came about. So there have been some difficulties. We've been meeting with them at least weekly before Christmas and now fortnightly. We saw just before Christmas and the beginning of the year that it seemed to be turning the corner and we were seeing improvements. But we've recently had some more issues. So we're looking to develop a framework that will bring additional providers online. But that we've got indicative date that we should be able to complete that process by May. But we recognise the direct payments are not working as the direct payments providers are not working as well as they should. And I think we've provided updates on where we are. I know Lisa has been updating people on the position. It's not where we want to be, in all honesty, because I think it is one of the things we can do something different with. People can pool their direct payments. So if there's a few people who've got something of specific interest, they can pool the direct, if they can be supported 2 to 1. If we give them X amount of hours, they can pool those together to get far more from that. And I think a good example is Amline but they didn't actually work with us to do that. But it was a cohort of people who were receiving direct payments, brought those direct payments workers together. They paid a bit extra so they could look at accessing the building, and they've done that as almost like pooling the direct payments to have more effective what fits their needs more. So, you know, pooling direct payments is something that I think we'll be exploring as we go along. You've got to understand it's quite a big change agenda, you know, and you've got to give Christy, you know, sort of credit. There's a lot of work being undertaken in the last few months. We still got a way to go. But you know, it's work in process and progress, and we recognise direct payments is going to be a key element of it. However, you know, we recognise there's issues with direct payments at the moment.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you. Also, like I said, I wanted to say great news on the refurbishment and well done on the accreditation. 5.7, when we've just discussed the small number of individuals who attended the day service that were living in residential, being reviewed and the cost analysis. Do you feel that the people living within residential setting, if the services provided there, do you not think that they will be missing out on interaction with other people?
Ah,
Is it,
right.
is the same, you're
Ah.
going to have the same people, and
Yeah.
it's nice to interact with different.
The people, we're only talking about 2 small homes and the maximum 5 people.
Okay.
Right. And of those 5 people, they were also attending day service. We were also paying them to do some elements of day
Yeah.
service as well. So with this, what it enables them to do is go out into the community. My understanding is they've got animals, they do work with the animals that are aligned to the homes, but they also go out into the community. One of them who was living in there before was actually had a job and used to go to his job and then go back at the end of the day. So it's not that they are then confined to living in the care home and they're not able to go out.
Okay.
These are quite able, in relative terms, in terms of learning disabilities, these are quite able people who do quite a lot, and some of them are able to access the community independently without support. But it's just that they've been living there since, God, I can't remember. When was the Old Wales strategy, Chris?
19.
So it's something like since 1990, these people have been living there. And if you look at them today, they probably would, you know, if we were assessing them today, we probably wouldn't place them in the residential care home because the needs are so, you know, sort of, well, they're quite able, but because they'd lived in long-term care for most of their lives, they weren't able to go back and live totally independently in the community at the time. So they're not isolated, living in the care home and don't go anywhere. They do go out and about. But then what we've done is reflected that in the payments we make into the care home, that is part of their role to make sure people can go out and access the community.
Lovely. I've just got one last thing about advocacy. How are you encouraging advocacy with individuals? Are you saying use your advocate, or are you encouraging them to ask for an advocate?
In all honesty, we tend to, in truth, there isn't sort of a plethora of advocacy agencies out there. So what we've been doing mostly is if people need advocates for any decisions, we've currently got a couple of people who are living in supported living at the moment, who we've allocated an advocate to those individuals so their voices brought into that decision making. We don't make so much of an active offer across adult social care because there isn't the capacity. 2 years ago, we put an advocacy strategy together that we brought to council and that was shared. As part of that, we've been recording those people who are asking for or require advocacy from the first point of contact with social care. So we've been gathering data over the last 18 months to see what we need to commission in the longer term, but still to date, most of the people who were provided with advocacy, most of them, I would say, either have the ability to self-advocate, so they can say what they want, We've got others who families advocate on their behalf, and I think those are probably with older people is the majority that are coming through. So they get the daughters to ring up and speak to someone, their son to speak to them, the niece, nephew. So we get a lot of family advocacy. In terms of advocacy, where you're getting an independent advocate involved, those numbers still remains small. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Angela, with the going back to the social enterprise thing, and you were saying that you were going to go out. RCT, I believe, no, the Canon Link in Aberdeen, I believe that CAF is run as a social enterprise. So I don't know whether it's worth adding that to go and have a look.
Right.
I think.
Canon Link is a totally different setup
Oh,
if you
okay.
look at it. But if you look at it, if you were looking at Age Connect manages that, it's a really
Yeah.
good thing. And I think it's
Yeah.
probably something we were talking about in terms of developing hubs. I think it's a really good example of
It's
how it
very
works
good.
well.
Yeah.
And it goes across a wider section. So it's not just older people. They do a lot of things for younger people. And I know we spoke to Councillor Jenkins and I spoke to Rachel Rowlands. And we did say we were going to have a look at it, but Councillor Jenkins keeps breaking her leg all the time. So we have to go over there. So, but I do think it's something that, you know, and they've had, I think it's probably something as part of the Shared Prosperity Fund we could look at, and this is something we could look at as part of developing St David's Centre. So it's a really good example. But the ones we really be looking at, isn't it, Chris, is in Cannon. They've got a garden centre that they sell directly to the public. But they've got a cafe there, really nice. It's only a small one, in Trecannon. There's a couple in Bridgend that are doing that, and Pembroke have really taken the social enterprise forward in work opportunities. So that's another area, plan on growing in, Chris. They've given some really good examples of people that we would normally think of not being able to be supported into employment. And there was someone at the ADSS conference, and they brought in someone with profound needs with CP, but you in full-time employment. So it was really good to see that. So that's one of the other areas we're going to look at to see how we can do things differently. But again, first area we had to sort out was looking at our established cohort that we needed to deal with now, and then going forward, that community opportunities coordinator will provide us with that data and what we need to do, but we'll also look at looking at other areas to rather than reinvent the wheel to see how did they actually get that to work. I think the Pembroke one, the example was it wasn't social care that actually took the lead on it. It was more the employment services. So is that something we need to work with Deb Newton to see if there's something we can do more innovatively there?
Okay, great. Thank you, Angela. And the last one for me really is about proofreading. It's in relation to one of the appendix. There is an error. I believe it's the word. I've lost the page now. Page 15.
Yeah.
Page 15. I believe it should say footballers.
Apologies for that. It was done by people first, following their consultation with the people we support.
Is there any way that can be changed?
I need to go back to them because it's in an Adobe format. We can't just edit it unless you've got the editing software, so we weren't able to just edit it.
Yeah.
So when I spoke to Sharon, she was going to try and see if she could find somebody who had the software. Obviously I could see today that she hadn't, but I'll go back to people first and ask if they've got the software, because that's how they've sent it to us. They've sent us their finished document.
Right, okay, yeah, that would
That's
be
what
great.
they've done, but I can ask them to do
Yeah.
that, certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, and also focus. The two S's. I didn't think of the two S's, it was just one.
Oh, I missed that one.
I think that's it. Yeah, that was done. Some of the people that were involved in making this were people with learning disabilities.
I think that's wonderful, and thank you for giving them the opportunity.
And I think so.
Hang on, Ange, can you put your microphone on?
it's been going on and off, and then
I
when
know.
we're staying on, and then it won't come off. I think, you know, we don't. In fairness, this is a peer advocate group of people with learning disabilities that are supporting to do this with a couple of volunteers, you know, and they take very much what the person says and puts it in the way
Right.
that people understand.
Right.
So, you know, this isn't an officer's document. This isn't produced by us.
No.
This is produced by people who learn disability to share with people with learning disabilities. So we have to accept sometimes that there's some minor
Yeah.
errors. So it's not us
Oh, right.
like
Okay. Yeah.
writing the wrong thing. This
Mm.
is now a document.
Mm.
This is people first who come in, they work with the people who learn disabilities, and they're the ones that produce it. So, you know, but it gives an example of, like, if you look at it, we've produced that report, which is very much, you know, written in lots and lots of words. This is in an easy read format that is in a way that is more easily understood by people who learn disabilities. And if you look at it, it's saying, but they, what are the things they want to do? They want to go on day trips, they want to go drama, they want to go dance, they want to go theatre, which isn't something that we deliver in day services. So, you know, they are the expectation, and going back to your comments earlier, is the expectations of those younger adults coming through is quite different to the expectations of the parents. So, you know, you got the younger adults that I don't want to go day services, I want to go off here, I want to go and do it. And we have got someone who actually accesses a specialist drama school for people who learn disability in Cardiff, because what he wants to do is, you know, sort of undertake acting. So, you know, that is being paid. We commission that specifically for that individual, where he goes to like drama school. So again, you're starting to look at that thing of what people's personal outcomes are and trying to develop things that fit in with that.
Lovely. Thank you, Angela.
So we'll take it back, and
Okay.
I know that's a bit of a long
No,
response then,
no,
but
no,
we
no,
will go
it's
back to them and ask them to change it.
opening up for comments. No.
I think my only comment would be, it would have been nice to have known
Yeah.
that was not done by yourselves and it was done, but I
Right.
would have appreciated that, because I don't want it to seem as if we're nitpicking,
No,
but
no.
but that, you know, I think you need to go back and tell the individuals who participated in putting this together that they have done an exceptional job, because I would hate them to think that we
Yeah.
are nitpicking, but it is an exceptional job. But I would have liked to have known. Thank you.
I think in there we said we worked with people first to complete these pieces of work, but I don't think we were so specific as to say people first did it, actually wrote these for us. They've got a specific software, and I'm pressing the thing that support that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments? No. Right. Thank you. Thank you, Angela. Thank you both. And yeah, with the upgrade, that is good news, because I know I thoroughly enjoy. I know we all did when we went up the visit to Tienvis, and you wouldn't think that you were in a health setting at all. A complete marked difference when you walk through those doors. So that's kind of going to be like a kind of mirrored model, I guess, that
Yeah, my understanding is
Yeah.
they're looking at using the same architects and planners,
Yeah.
and we've got some initial draft plans. It's creating that open space, but also I think for learning disabilities as well, because some people sometimes need time time out away from an environment which can be sort of overstimulating
Yeah.
at certain times. They've built in there some separate rooms where people can like
Mm.
go and have a bit of time out and chill out before, rather than come back into the community. But it looks very similar design.
Yeah.
It'll come out to the courtyard, but I think they've changed the back rooms a bit more. No way we walked through when there was those shade areas.
Yeah.
I think they've done some work with
Okay.
those to adjust as well.
Brilliant. Yeah. And obviously with the accreditation, I know I've said it before, obviously I would imagine it's going to be used as a benchmark for other areas. Like you were going out to look at other areas about social enterprise. You know, it'd be positive that others are going to come in.
They'll come out
Yeah,
and look at it, and I
um,
think, you know, because it was paid for through the risk, the change in the building. I think a lot of that was publicised through the regional partnership board as well, and we've had people come to ask to come and have a look at it
Brilliant.
as
Okay,
example of how best to like deliver it.
lovely. Thank you. Thank you both. Okay. Right, item 4 then. So the childcare offer progress update. I'll hand you over to Cabinet Member Julia Jenkins. Take us through the report.
Thank you, Chair. It's the Childcare Offer Progress Report. Report authored as Sarah Osler and Chris Hole. It's a summary of report 1.1. The Welsh Government childcare offer has been implemented across Wales and successfully implemented across Merthyr Tydfil with good levels of sign-up from existing childcare providers. There has been a strategic alignment with the foundation learning element of the offer, linking with local schools to minimise the need for parents to relocate children when accessing the offer. The childcare offer has evolved over time in its eligibility criteria and application processes have now all moved online. Providers are paid a national rate for the delivery of childcare within the childcare offer, which is set by Welsh Government. 1.2. The Welsh Government provide each local authority with a marketing budget to promote the childcare offer. Locally, the childcare team have utilised a range of marketing activities to promote the childcare offer to families and wider partners. However, the take-up of this offer is lower than anticipated, and the challenge going forward is how we can seek to take a collaborative approach to increase take-up, ensure that families benefit from the financial assistance and the children benefit from access to quality early years opportunities. The purpose of the report is to update elected members on the progress made against the delivery of the Welsh Government-funded childcare offer and to consider next steps to increase the take-up of the 30-hour offer. Thank you, Chair.
Chris, are you okay to take us through any other details on the report? Thank you.
I think it's online, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Yeah. What I'll do is I'll just take us through briefly through the report. So in terms of the introduction and background, what I just highlight is under 3.4 is the requirements under the childcare offer, which is a maximum of 30 hours of early education that children can access through the offer. And that's made up of the statutory offer within education and the schools, and then an additional element to make up the 30 hours, so that if you're in school part-time, you can actually access childcare offer for the rest of that offer in the week, up to a maximum of 30 hours. But the provision is also available for the 9 weeks of school holidays. So absolutely vital in terms of having children access that support. In terms of moving on through that, is that we've got good take-up from the maintained nursery classes across the county borough. And at 3.6, the roles of the local authorities are defined by Welsh Government, and our role as a local authority is as an engagement authority, and that means that we're primarily responsible for the marketing and promotion of the offer, not the actual paper sign-up, which is done by colleagues over in Rhondda and Taff. Taking us through to section 4, which is where we were, the offer was available to parents who were working more than 16 hours at a minimum wage and earning less than £100,000 when the offer was first launched. And as it was said, RCT were doing the delivery aspect on our behalf. Under 4.4, you can see where we've developed the capital works with the childcare offer, which sets out where the investments have been in terms of Ysgol y Graig, Pantascachlog, Dowlais and Bedlinog. And that's primarily to try and develop closer ties between the childcare provisions and the schools on those sites in order to get working together, so the parents don't have to transport children between 2 different settings if they are only in on a part-time basis. Moving on to where we are now. So since September 2022, the offer has been extended to those on the edge of work, those in education and training. I think it's full-time education and training, isn't it? Yes, full-time education and training to be able to access. And we've currently got 22 out of the 30 childcare providers across the county borough active within delivering the offer across the county borough. As I said, the funding is set by Welsh Government. They set the rate at which the settings are recompensed. And in terms of under 5.5, you'll see that historically we've had somewhere between 13 and 16% of the 3 to 4 year old population taking up the childcare offer, which we consider to be quite low. We often have discussions with Welsh Government over it. Particularly the lack of take up during holidays is concerning. And what we've got, and we've provided for you there under table 1, is the historic picture of take up right across the local authority since the implementation of the offer in 1920. Now we know that part of the take up of the offer is going to be impacted by what children can access within full-time education. So a child that goes into full-time education in the September that is doing full-time in school won't be eligible for any childcare offer take up except in the holiday periods. So we always expect that September through to December period to be fairly quiet within the offer. But as you can see from the numbers, in the number of children receiving the childcare offer in the year, we've got a decreasing picture in terms of the take up of that childcare offer. So moving on into the rest of into the programme, what we've got is the early years team that has actually spent a significant amount of time marketing the offer as identified by the appendices in terms of promoting the take up to parents, and yet we're not getting that take up, which is concerning both for the team and ourselves, and is something that we are regularly discussing with Welsh Government. We've done an analysis recently, and it's highlighted there in 5.10 for you, is that looking at a comparative authority like Blaenau Gwent, they've got a significantly higher level of take-up, even though their population and their demographics, population is slightly more, but their demographics are fairly similar to Merthyr Tydfil in terms of that. So we're really concerned that we're not seeing the amount of take-up that we potentially should be within Merthyr. So in terms of where we want to be, obviously the main aim for us is to increase the take-up of the childcare offer, to get parents using it more during the holidays, and for parents whose children are only attending school part-time during the school week. And we've identified a number of elements there in terms of what we need to do next. And certainly one of the areas that we've also identified is a lot of our childcare across Merthyr is preschools, which means that they're very much aligned with the feelings of when you get to the end of the term, potentially you don't open during the summer holidays. And so we may need to look at alternative ways of actually trying to work collaboratively across providers in encouraging them to open, because there is obviously that fear as well of burnout during the school term in terms of having enough staff to be able to provide throughout the summer holidays. But we've provided Appendix A, which has shown the extensive marketing that's gone on across the county borough to try and increase the take-up of the offer. And one of the other elements that's just mentioned in the report is, as an administrative authority, which is responsible for that marketing and promotion, we're also responsible for enhanced support for those children. And we've had to go back to Welsh Government because we've seen quite a high level of enhanced support needs in order for children to be able to attend provision, which Welsh Government have funded and increased the budget for us that one year. That's the generals of the report, Chair. So I think what we're asking Scrutiny to do is really question us on the whole marketing and what we've done to date in order to increase the take up, and seek any assistance you can offer in terms of how to change the thinking of parents and the culture of relying on family and friends for childcare.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. So I'll start if that's okay.
Yeah.
So I've had to create a bit of a review of what's out there. So to start with, I went on Merthyr Council website. Now, and I've also had a look, and obviously there's a Facebook page as well for the Merthyr Tydfil Family Information Service. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. Right, so when you follow the links from the Facebook posts, it takes you to gov.wales, and what I done, I submitted generic information to make sure I was eligible, and where that took me, and then I put my own postcode in, but then it took me to a web page which wasn't in existence, it was under construction. For more information about this offer, and I just hit don't get me wrong, there's other ways of getting the information, but the link's out there on the Gov website, and it says website under construction, come back soon. And that link is also on the Merthyr Council website as well. You click it for more information, and it says it's under construction. So I don't know whether that's something that you were aware of, or
My there will probably be twofold. One might be that it's I'd have to look at the link that you've got in order to be able to be really clear, or look at it on the website. But there are two elements, I think, that are impacting upon the website information. One is that Welsh Government have moved everything online recently, so that might well be one issue. The other is that the Family Information Service website has been under construction for some time now.
yeah,
And I know Sarah's been working with colleagues in social services who are responsible for that site in order to look at its development and look at how that can be made more user friendly in terms of its information, and getting it back to a place where it's usable by families.
yeah, yeah.
In order for that to happen. Sarah, have you got?
I think I would have just relayed what Chris did, really, is around, it sounds like you've gone to the national website, and there's been lots of changes recently, as Chris has alluded to, around all the digital service. So it sounds like the national website from Welsh Government is under construction.
No, it's the link from the Merthyr page. It says Merthyr Family Information
I
Service.
beg your pardon.
Yeah.
So it's not the national
No, it's
Welsh Government site, it's our site. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as Chris has mentioned, the family information site now has been under development for probably about 12 months or more. I'm hoping that it's reaching the point now where it can go live. But unfortunately it hasn't been for some time.
Right, okay.
And that's the position that we're in at the moment.
Yeah, because that's the link that's on the .gov when you check the eligibility. So I don't know whether
We'll pick that up with the Welsh Government to see whether there can be any change to that, because the application process is all online now, and is done by RCT. So it may be that we need to check whether that can be redirected. But it's I think that's one for us to look at. I know I can't get it off.
the other thing I picked up was, obviously I know some of the marketing material out there is provided by Welsh Government and you can't change it. But is the definition of parent, I've had a quick look at some of the Facebook posts that have gone out. I don't know whether we expand on that. Are you a parent of? And maybe some people think, well, that's not applicable to me, but you could be a foster parent, adopted parent, kinship. You know, maybe that could be included in some of the narrative.
I think that's a fair point. You're absolutely right. We do rely on the assets that come through from Welsh Government, but certainly take on board that feedback. And if that's, if that's something that you've viewed from looking at the information, I'd certainly be happy to go back and have a look at it and see if we can sort of extend that, because like you say, people may not feel it's relevant to them. They don't categorize themselves, as a parent, but as a wider, like you say, kinship.
Maybe like, are you responsible for, instead of are you a parent, maybe.
No, that's really helpful. Thank you.
And then, sorry, it's me. So I went on the Merthyr Council website and I applied for a nursery placement. I didn't go through all the steps, but I can't remember what's on the form altogether. My children are too old now. I can't remember what's on, what the stage is on there. But is there something, when you apply for a placement, does it generate like a tick box? Do you want more information about this? Because there you've got them. They're on the website applying for a nursery placement. Is that an opportunity where you could?
You're absolutely right. That's our captive audience.
Yeah.
Because parents who are applying for a nursery place, albeit full-time, part-time, they're the ones that could potentially be eligible. We've made the links with admissions. So in their admissions information that goes out, there's information in the letter on childcare offer. Whether it's then included as part of the application, again, I would need to go back and double check whether it is a tick box, did you know, or some information on it, but I'll double check.
Yeah, because when you go into the tab, apply for nursery placement, there's like 2 short paragraphs about the offer.
Yeah.
But I think maybe that could if it can't be included in the form, maybe that could be looked at as well.
So including the application form,
Yeah.
just be another.
Yeah. A few more. And then the email, there's an email. If you want any more information, please email. Do we have any inquiries via email? It's only because I noticed this an individual staff member's email address that's on the council website.
Right, it shouldn't be, because we've got a generic childcare offer email. So what we've done with inquiries, both email inquiries should come to the generic email box, because we avoid now using individual officers' emails. And then any inquiries should go through to the contact centre, because of our obligations around the Welsh language. And knowing that by going through the contact centre, there will be the option of communicating through Welsh. If there is somewhere on there that still includes an individual officer's email, then it shouldn't.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested in knowing which page.
If you just go into the Merthyr Council website and type in childcare,
Yeah.
and everything relevant comes up, and it opens, expands on the offer. And then there's two links. Well, there's the link to the website under construction, but then for more information, email, and it's an individual staff member.
It shouldn't be. We've changed it in the last, I think, 6 months.
Right. Okay.
Whether we've changed it everywhere, it sounds like we haven't.
Yeah.
So that's really helpful. I'll go and search that out.
Yeah. And it's the last one for me. I am sorry. So looking at it from a different perspective, why is it declining? Obviously, I know Cyfarthfa Primary, they now offer full-time nursery. But I think sometimes the first people, well, I know from my own circumstance, grandparents step in, don't they? Grandparents sometimes jump at the chance, don't they? Yes, I'll help out with childcare. But it's the consequences that come with that then, because we are all getting older, all working longer, and then grandparents are reducing their hours to help out with childcare. So I was just thinking, sharing this information, is it worth sharing it in the 50+ forums or those type of groups? So yes, ultimately the decision is down to the parents, isn't it, about the offer? But it's just getting that information everywhere, because then that's a conversation for the family to have together, how they could benefit. That's what I was thinking from an older person point of view, from a grandparent point of view,
Older person's 50, you're not older person.
Yeah, I just suddenly went into the older person's category.
Oh,
Not offended at all. No, it's okay.
Sorry.
No, I'm in that forum as well. No, I think you're right, because the element is, and that's why I mentioned the cultural bit earlier, is what we've noted through years of looking at the childcare sufficiency assessments. There is a culture in Merthyr of the families taking care of the children as in the childcare in their own environment, partly because of cost, partly because the element about the close-knit community structure that exists in Merthyr. So I think it is what we've got to try and do is convince families not only to put their trust in the childcare centres, but why it's beneficial for these children to be involved in those experiences, in that social environment with other children, in order to develop those social skills, which are so important as they move on through school. So there's something culturally we've got to do, but you're right, we've got to think about how we also break into that older population and influence their thinking as well.
Yeah, letting them know there are other options. So
absolutely.
Share it out. Sorry, then it was the last one from me. So all households in Merthyr are all going to be getting a letter soon about council tax. Is there something that could be done with revenues in getting information out in those letters, obviously, because they have relevant information about who's in what property, etc. But that I was just thinking off the top of my head, really, letters are going out to every household. Could you tap into that?
I mean, I think it's a good idea, because I would have, from a cost of living perspective, obviously childcare costs are quite significant. So I certainly can make a link to, I think it's Mark Price, I think it is, in terms of seeing what's possible, because potentially the authority could take advantage and say, here's a whole load of support that's potentially available, and childcare being just one of them in terms of that letter going out.
Yeah, absolutely. And, look, pension credit and things, there's lots of information that could be shared out. So, yeah. Thank you. That was it for me. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Councillor Claire Jones?
First of all, thank you for the report. 5.3, you state that there can be a maximum of £9 per day, which includes 3 meals and 2 snacks. As much as the sector has welcomed that increase, parents can't afford that. And is that per child? Please.
Yes, that is per child. That is the maximum. So that's not to say that every childcare provider is choosing to go up to the maximum, but that is governed by Welsh Government. So within their guidance, that's what they state is the maximum. But I appreciate what you're saying, that even that may be out of reach for some families. But that is something that is outside of our control because it's governed by Welsh, it's through Welsh Government guidance.
Back to 5.4. What is, you're on about sound management information. What is your timescale for that information being up?
So again, so do you want to take that, Chris? Yeah. So again, this is linked to the Welsh Government digital platform that's being developed at the moment. And I was on a session with them last week where they're starting to develop that, and I'm hoping in the next month or so they'll be going live and we will be able to have that instant information management information available to us, because at the moment the management information comes via RCT as our delivery authority. But when we can have easy access to that information, I think it will give us a sort of up-to-date time information on what's happening, so that it can influence how we market and promote the programme.
Yeah, just building on what Sarah's saying, that will allow us to look at the number of applications going through, the number that's been approved, potentially to look at things like geography. Are we seeing spikes at certain areas? Are we seeing non-take-up at certain areas? So that we can start to target that advertising and that promotion in a more effective way. Because at this moment in time, all we know is the number that get approved and rejected every year. The only other information we really get is because we get it from the work that we do with providers. So knowing that the number that are coming in.
Sorry, Mai, we lost Councillor Gareth Richards.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we can hear. We just can't see you.
I can see myself.
I had that problem, didn't I? 5.5 then, you've got one of the challenges in delivering the offer is making sure the parents, carers are aware of the offer and how they can apply. What are the challenges? Because I don't know whether I've missed something. It was different. It was difficult to establish how many eligible families there are likely to be across this population who would meet with the employment or training education criteria, because surely that information, if you're unemployed and in education, all this information should be on the government system. So I'm a bit, if you can explain that to me, please.
We can't explain to you the number of eligible families that exist in the county borough, because you have to be working minimum of 16 hours, under £100,000. That can change on a day-by-day basis. And now with the introduction of the learning and training, so those that are in college on a full-time basis, that changes as well as that year progresses. So it's one of the challenges we have, is that we can't say that there are 700 eligible families across this county borough, and therefore we should be looking for all of those to take it up, because it's a fluctuating picture. And I think that's one of the challenges. But when we compare ourselves to another local authority, we still know that the take up is low. When we look at the employment rates in Merthyr and we look at the employment rates, we think it should be higher. The take up should be higher. But the challenge, I suppose, is that for getting that information out to parents to understand these are the parameters for what you could be eligible for, and trying to get them to take that up. As well as the other challenge which I mentioned is have we got enough? We've got a childcare sector that would say they don't get a lot of inquiries for the school holidays during the summer, but a lot of them close for the summer as well. So it might be the challenge is about trying to get providers to work together, because each individual provider within Merthyr, because we do very little delivery ourselves as a local authority, is an independent business or independent financially sustainable organisation. So if you only got 2 or 3 parents saying we want childcare for the summer, the provider's thinking that ain't enough for us. We'd lose money hand over fist if we opened. But if you've got 5 or 6 providers who've got 2 or 3 families saying it, then perhaps there's some work we can do to say to the providers, well, look, can't you open and everybody direct the families to that provider? You've still got the challenge then of, as a parent, you've had trust in this provider over here for the majority of a year, and suddenly you're going to have to trust this provider over here. So there are some quite distinct challenges within the sector, which is why I say a lot of our provision is preschools. If you're in and I'm going to name them, but if you're in somewhere like Fantasia, which is a day nursery open all year round, they're open all year, whether they're taking childcare off for children or not. So as a provider, it's another paying customer. But for some of the ones that are closed every half term, every school holidays, they've got to decide whether it's financially viable to stay open.
Any other questions? Councillor Ian Thomas?
The childcare offer in general seems to be aimed at families with more secure, better paid jobs, not so much for people on benefits. And they say you must be working over 16 hours a week on the real living wage, or up to £100,000 per annum. And also you're saying that the take up on the offer is lower than expected. Could that be then because it's a deprived area and the people can see that they're not eligible, that is why the take up is low? And am I reading it wrong, or is it a bit unfair? And if so, can something be done about it?
I think whether it's unfair is questionable, because obviously it's a programme that was brought in by Welsh Government to support working parents and to support the cost of living. I mean, even before we were talking the days of cost of living, it was brought in because of the cost of the expensive costs of childcare, with a view, I suppose, to saying, well, people who were unemployed were at home all day and could look after their own children while at the same time they were at home. Whereas working parents needed that extra assistance, particularly during the school holidays. In terms of, what was the first part, sorry, councillor?
I was saying about,
where the take-up was low.
Yeah, is that the reason? Is that one of the reasons why the take-up is low? Because people know they're not eligible, because it's all slanted in favour of people with better paid jobs.
I think I mean, when we compare it to, I say, to Blaen y Gwent, where the demographics are fairly similar in terms of Blaen y Gwent, the take-up is much higher than in Merthyr. I think when we look at the employment rates and where they've been over the last few years, we would expect for it to be a better take-up than it has been. And that's something we've found quite challenging and disappointing ourselves, because we thought there would be a higher take-up, just based upon what employment has looked like historically across the county borough for the last few years, because that employment rate has been quite good, with people working. And there may be some hidden factors in that. People might be on 0 hours contracts and questioning whether they, whether that would be eligible, because if you're on 0 hours this week and 14 hours next week and 22 hours the week after, it provides some challenges in terms of the ability to be eligible for the offer. So, it's not a perfect scenario by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh, okay. The thing about 0 hours contracts is, do we know other cases of people trying to apply with when they're in those sort of circumstances?
I'm not sure. Sarah, let me know in a second. But I think that's one of the things we would be wanting more management information about on this new digital platform. So.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, RCT is our delivery authority, deal with the sort of technical issues of eligibility and so on. But my understanding with 0-hour contracts is as long as there's evidence over a period of time of in the form of pay slips that there has been employment over 16 hours, I think there is some way of people being able to access the offer in the absence of having a contract that displays 16 hours or more.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Any other questions? No. Do you think as well it could be, because of the pandemic, more flexibility is being afforded now, isn't it, to working hours? You know, and perhaps parents are more able to manage that. You know, that when you were looking at these other hidden factors, it could be that employers are more flexible with working from home, work in the morning, work in the afternoon. You know, they could be that added to it as well.
I mean, I think it's possible, and I think the difficulty we have is that when the offer was launched in 2019-20, obviously we were 1 year before the pandemic, and then we've been delivering the childcare offer throughout the pandemic. You know, so I think that potentially masks the information or doesn't give a true picture. And certainly, you know, the flexible nature of employment is going to have an impact as well. But you know, we would have thought that particularly things like the school holiday, the 6-week holiday period, we would see a greater demand. But I suppose the time will tell is if we continue to try and market it to parents and try and look at some of the avenues that have been discussed, we can always come back and see whether there's been any change in that. I think the element will be is that obviously with the cost of living challenges, we want to make sure parents are maximising this as much as they can.
Lovely, thank you. Councillor Gareth Richards, are you still there? He is. It's just because we can't see you. Is he there?
He is.
Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, I can hear you now. Just checking, are you still there? That's all.
Yeah,
Okay.
Isn't the camera on then? The camera's on this end?
No, we can't see you.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any comments?
I had a question, Chair, if that's right.
Oh yeah, sorry, going back then. Questions. Sorry, Gareth, off you go.
It's regarding the overspend on additional needs in this, Chris. Sorry, not additional needs, additional support grant for children with additional needs. Hello?
Yes, Gareth, what's the question?
Oh, sorry, Chris. How much is the overspend, and are any likelihood of the overspend being covered from, or an increase in funding to cover it?
I'm just looking for the overspend, but the overspend that was identified in the document, in the report, was approved and covered by Welsh Government, so it had no impact for the local authorities' finances.
Right, yeah.
I think what that started to highlight as well is that, and this is something that's been seen as well through COVID, is the needs of children, particularly their social and communication needs, is being seen extensively within Flying Start, which is the 2 to 3 year olds. So we would expect to see some demand upon this budget again in the forthcoming year for the 3 to 4 year olds, because the lack of social interaction some of these children have had during COVID. But at this point in time, everything's been covered by Welsh Government, so no impact upon the council coffers.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Gareth Richards. So opening up for comments then. Any comments? No. It's just to say as well, about, like online, digital, Facebook. I think there is a Facebook page for the Family Information Service. I think that's 1,600 followers. And then you've gone with the council website, I think that's 16,000 followers. So maybe that's something, if you need to share anything to build up followers, maybe share it from the council Facebook page first, possibly.
I think, and the team, as Sarah could confirm, but we do share through the council Facebook page. We share through those and the Flying Start Facebook page and
Yeah.
so that we're trying to hit all avenues really.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, thank you both, and thank you for
No problem.
taking on board those questions and comments as well. Okay. Right, so item 5 then, forward work programme. That's on page 35. So this is the latest version of forward work programme. This is version 6. So following on from the second quarterly meeting, so the NHS 6 goals now are going to full council, Julia, I believe. Yeah. And then the request has been then, so the individual goals, the ones which are applicable for social care and the ones which are integrated with health, they'll come into scrutiny, those individual goals. So we've got, for the remainder of the year, so that on the 18th of April, we have adult carer update, young carer update and safeguarding update. And then on the 13th of June is the corporate self-evaluation. And that's the only thing that's listed for that date, because I think that's quite a big item. But then we've also got an additional, there's an additional workshop on the 4th of April. Angela, is that in your diary? We've got a self-evaluation workshop. I just wanted to check while you were here. That's in for you. Yeah, 4th of self, and that's just in, no, it's okay. And that's in relation then to the meeting then in June.
Social services self-evaluation.
Yeah.
So that's been prepared. I think it's with Sean Lyons.
Okay.
So it's the 4th of April.
Lovely.
Lisa's story.
And then there are some things outstanding. So there's some information reports to be circulated. Cwmtaf Youth Offending Team Annual Report. There's the Cardiff Adoption Collaborative Annual Report. I'll chase the dates when we're going to be having those as well, but those are just information reports. So there is an external visit penciled in, but I think we were waiting for the 22nd of March because the Welsh Government Deputy Minister for Social Services is going to open the Community Hub and Housing Project in the Gurnas, formerly the Neighbourhood Learning Centre. So I'm going to ask if we can attend that event, or when is the closest date possible after that's officially been opened that we can attend as a committee, if that's okay. Yeah, but once I find that out, I'll circulate that. And that's it really for the forward work programme. If there's any questions or comments on the forward work programme. No? Okay, so officers, you can leave now if you want to. Ah, thank you.
Thank you for the invitation to stay.
Okay. Julia, are you staying?
No, I'll stay. Go on, if you want to stay.
It's up to you. I'm not going to kick you out. Fine. That's absolutely fine. Thank you. Okay, so item 6, scrutiny referrals. I have none at this stage. And item 7, report recommendations. And just like, again, there's no need for any sort of formal vote or anything. And it's just if we're happy that we've met the recommendations in the report. How do we feel? Do we feel that we met the recommendations? So the recommendations for item 3 was to review the progress to date and comment on the future reconfiguration of the daytime opportunity offer. Do you feel that we've done that? Yeah. And then item 4 with the childcare offer progress update. I think some good questions were asked, and I think it's certainly given them something to go in and have a look at, because obviously I was a bit concerned about the information that was available online isn't up to date or isn't in operation. So so hopefully they'll take that on board as well. Anything you wanted to add in relation to that? Item 4, are we all happy that we met the recommendations? Okay. Item 8, feedback on scrutiny activities. Like I say, I'll see if we can attend the official opening on the 22nd. But if not, I'll see if I can get a date as soon as possible just to get that done. And that is it. Any other business? I have none. So the next meeting where we'll be together is the 4th of April for the self-evaluation workshop. Then the 12th of April is the pre-meet for scrutiny then, which is in for the 18th of April. All right, thank you all.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Thank you. Thanks, take care. Just gonna ask Garth if he was all right, but I don't know whether it's like a technical